This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest is Megan Gogerty, playwright, actress, monologuist, who has a new play that is going to premiere at Riverside Theatre on the 25th of October called Feast. But before we talk about Feast, the last time you were here, it was for your previous show,
Yes.
Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan.
Yes.
And you had quite a run on that. So since I got it, I talked to you at the very beginning, but now we kind of have to fill in all the stuff that happened with that because you were all over the world with that show, literally.
I was. The last time you and I talked, Dennis, it was just about to premiere at Riverside in February 2017. And then we premiered that show at Riverside Theatre. And then I have taken it all over the country, including the world. I took it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
You took the Scottish play to Scotland.
I did, indeed.
Tough crowd.
Yeah, it turns out they knew that play already. They'd heard the story before. But they hadn't heard my exciting American take on it. So I did that show for a month in Edinburgh, which was beautiful. Have you ever been to Edinburgh?
No.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's like a postcard. Like, it's so beautiful there. So that was wonderful, and I've sort of taken it all around now. And now what's happening with Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan is other actors are starting to do it. And so there was a production in Austin, Texas, where Megan, the character of Megan, was played by some other woman.
By Abby.
Yes, her name was Eva McQuaid, and she was fantastic, and she was nominated for an acting award, and she was amazing. But they said, Megan, would you like to come down and see the show? We'll pay for your plane ticket. And I was like, you know what? Thank you, but no thank you. I think that would be a little weird. That would be like, Stranger Things, like I'd be in the Upside Down. Like, I don't know if I want to see somebody do an impression of me.
It might be evil Megan with a little chin beard. And,
I don't know. I'm sure she was wonderful. I hear she was fantastic. But I wish them all good news from afar. But now, Saffron Henke, who is the director of Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan, we have reunited on this new play, Feast. This is my 5th solo show at Riverside Theatre. It is our second collaboration, Saffron and my second collaboration. Oh, Dennis, I'm so excited. I am deeply pumped for this play. It's a hard left turn from anything that I've done before.
That's reading, kind of what you've been posting on social media and the little tidbits and the promo pics and stuff like that. It seems, am I correct in saying it's just a little dark?
Oh, it's a very thrilling, exciting Game of Thrones-esque.
Okay.
It's a ghost story. It's a political polemic. It's a high fantasy epic with swords and monsters and death and dismemberment. There's and it's all sort of wrapped in this packaging of being a dinner party.
Okay, because when you think swords and monsters and death and dismemberment, dinner party is
Naturally.
where that usually takes place.
Naturally.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really fun about it is, so the play is a dinner party where the audience are the guests. And when they walk into the Riverside Theatre, walking into Riverside is going to be unlike any time walking into Riverside, as far as I know, for 30 years. The set design is done by a wonderful designer named Chris Rich, and he has transformed that Riverside Theatre space so that it is such an immersive piece of theater, where usually when you go to see a show at Riverside, the audience sits where the audience sits, and the stage is over here, and we're all nicely divided by darkness.
And there's a nice 3-4 foot gap, space, moat, if you will.
It is a moat. That's exactly right. Not for Feast. In Feast, the audience is sitting where the audience sits, but another part of the audience is sitting on the stage. Another part of the audience is sitting on the set. They'll be sitting at a dinner table with plates in front of them full of the remains of a meal they supposedly just ate, right? So you are in the show in a way. You don't have to have any lines or anything like that, but you are immersed in the world of this play from the very beginning. And our host, played by me, I come out, and I'm dressed in a very nice dress, I'll tell you. And I come out, and she welcomes us to the dinner, but we discover pretty early on, we realize that she's not human. And she tells us, she says, here we are, I've thrown this dinner party, you're invited here because we are at the end of humanity. And thousands of years ago, your fathers betrayed my people. And so this is going to be a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and we're going to get to the bottom of it tonight. And then she launches into this story that is a corker. It is a thrilling and high fantasy story of the murder of her son at the hands of this tribal strong man. And she goes into this whole thing. And it's very exciting. And the whole play is really a meditation on what do we do in the face of authoritarianism? What do you and I do as like regular people with kids and a mortgage and responsibilities and, you know, grocery store bills? Like, what do we do when the dictator comes? Like, what do we do when our collective fate is in the hands of a minority of people who don't necessarily have our interests at heart? What's our job? So it's a play that's asking big questions. It's a pretty timely play. It talks about climate change. It talks about the lurch globally toward sort of far-right and authoritarian regimes. So it talks about all of that. And it also talks about, you know, what it's like to be afraid in these times and feeling that helplessness feeling of going, oh, the scientists say we have 11 years to fix climate change, but what am I supposed to do about that? I guess I'll just go take my girl to Girl Scouts. Like, what do you do, right? And so I think that's a feeling that is pervasive right now. But the truth is, Dennis, we have a lot more power than we think that we do. And so this play is sort of unpacking some of that, but in a way that is really thrilling. It's thrilling, I think, well, certainly to perform. It's very exciting. I'm very eager to get in front of people, but I think it's going to be quite a ride for our audience.
Usually at this point in the interview, I say something along the lines of, so tell me where you got the idea for writing this play. Asked and answered. But what you've done is you've taken, as they say in the media, ripped from the headlines, taken a meditation of, things that are happening right now. But then you've put them, like any good playwright does, in a totally different atmosphere. How did you come up with the concept of, kind of something that was part ghost story and part fantasy to tell the story in this way?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do is after Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan, which I was so proud of and I felt so good about, but I also felt when I finished that play that I had, it was my fourth solo show, and all of my shows had been, up to that point, these semi-autobiographical comic stories that are like funny plus feelings. And Lady Macbeth and her pal Megan felt sort of like a capper on that. Like I did what I had been trying to do over a course of a few plays.
You perhaps have told the Megan story.
Yeah, like I did it. I'm sure I got a lot more Megan stories to go, so don't make me not go back to that form, because I certainly will. But I just found myself in the aftermath of the election and sort of dealing with, some personal loss in my personal life, and just kind of wanting to kind of flush the toilet and try something new. I wanted to just swing for the fences. And I thought, okay, I have this. It was after Christmas, going into the new year. I had about a month of time. I was like, I'm going to write a new play during this time. And I don't know what it's going to be about, but what I want is it to be completely different from anything I've ever done before. And when I finish the draft, maybe it'll go in a drawer or I'll light it on fire and nobody will ever see it. I'm giving myself permission to write just a terrible play, but let's swing for the fences and try something. So I sat down and I started writing this play that was with this heightened language. Parts of it are in blank verse. That was as different from the Megan Gogerty story as I could think of. And then it just kind of came pouring out. And all of my grief and helplessness and frustrations and anger And all of my sort of big feelings that I had been sort of bottling up over the year or so just kind of came flooding through this high fantasy epic. And when I finished it, I typed the words that said "the end" on the first draft, and I sent it to my director, Saffron, and I said, "Okay, Saffron, I wrote a play. I don't know if it's any good. I'm going to send it to you. You take a look at it, and then I might just burn it." And Saffron read it, and she said, "I want to play this part." I was like, "Ooh, that's good." That's positive. So I gave it to a couple other trusted friends, and they came back to me and they said, "Well, Megan, if you don't want to play this part, I'll play this part." And then I was like, "Well, I might have something here." If all my actor friends want to do this role, then maybe there's something. And I actually considered for a long time not playing the role myself and having, Saffron Henke, for the people who are theater goers, regular theater goers here in the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area, they may recognize Saffron. She has been a fixture. She's a professor now at Colorado State, but she has been a fixture on Riverside stage and other stages for many years, and she's an extraordinary actress. And I really thought about, giving it to her or giving it to one of my other incredibly talented actor friends, and then just not doing it. But the more I thought about it, I thought, well, the only reason not to do it, Megan, is because you're scared, and that's not a good enough reason. So time to, bite the big one and swing for the fences and give it a shot. So I'm playing this part. And, Dennis, my training is all playwriting. My training is not as an actor. So Saffron has been sort of doing some acting 101 for me.
Well, because the character, most of the time, the character you have played is you.
Yeah, and it's been very easy to be like, would the character do this? Sure. Would the character wear this? Yes, I would. Like, it's been very easy. But now I'm playing a part where not only is she not me, she's not human. So how does that person move? And how does that person talk? And how does that person connect with the other people in the room and in the audience? And it's just sort of a huge acting challenge that is really exciting. And I'll tell you what, Dennis, we were in rehearsal the other day, and I'd been so sort of nervous and daunted by this role, like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to pull it off? And we were in rehearsal the other day, and I felt this sort of enormous freedom of going, well, actually, I can do anything I want if she's not human. Like, I could walk in with my elbows. Do you know what I mean? I could do whatever I want. It's so theatrical. This play will hold it. And I got very excited at that point. So now it's just become really fun. And I think, how like theater is like a party where you have to be there and like hearing about it later, like, oh, you had to be there. It was so great. This is going to be one of these parties. This is going to be one of these haunted houses, one of these experiences for audiences where you really are going to want to be there. Because it's going to be it's very different than anything I've ever done. I may not ever do anything like it again, but it's going to be a corker. It's going to be very exciting.
The play is a world premiere at Riverside Theatre. It's Feast with Megan Gogerty, opening October 25th and running
till November 10th.
Okay, so kind of a short run. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to get in and be a part of the dinner party before all the table scraps are cleaned up. Well, Megan, it's always a pleasure to have you come in here, but hear what it is that you've been working on and the fun and incredible and emotional programs that you have been bringing to the corridor for a long time. So thanks so much for being here, and good luck as you stretch out a little bit on this.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio most Thursdays and Fridays at 10:20, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule using your favorite podcast app or at kcck.org/culture. I'm Dennis Green.